I don't like saying data are. I don't like saying these data. And I definitely don't like when people correct my writing and say, hey, Jacob, don't you know data is a plural? Well, I've got some data for you. What we're looking at here is some data I've extracted from a Google data set that is just basically them counting how many words appear in a bunch of books they've scanned. So we have the singular form and the plural form of a bunch of words. Yes, I realize many of these shouldn't be here, but I didn't clean the data very well. Then we have the sample size. So that is how many times both of these words combined showed up. Then the single to plural ratio. So this, the count for how much showed up versus the count for how much muches showed up. That gives us a ratio. In this case, the singular showed up 491,000 times more than the plural. And then we have a blue bar indicating the bigness of this ratio. All right, so of course at the top we have words where the singular is used far more often than the plural. So we'll go down to some real words. So here we go. So these words, we have a 30-to-1 ratio. This means kindness is used 30 times more often than kindnesses. All right, let's keep going. You get it. Here we're going to have about an even ratio, 1-to-1. Then we're going to keep going down. And we're going to start finding words where the plural form is actually used more than the singular. So we have feathers being used twice as often as feather. Let's keep going though. Notice how I'm quite near the bottom because there aren't a ton of words where the plural, oh God, spoilers. Okay, the plural is not used. There aren't many words where the plural is used more often than the singular. So algae to alga. Alga? I don't know. The plural is used 7 times more often than the singular. Stairs and stare. When do you ever talk about one stair? Almost never. And that gives us an 8-to-1 ratio. Stairs is used 8 times more often than stare. All right. Now we're going to go to the bottom of the list. What I would consider fake words, just as at the top we had fake words. And we have agendum and agenda and datum and datum. Look at this ratio, 1 to 309, 1 to 137. All right. These are worse than headquarters. When do you ever have a headquarter? You don't have a headquarter. You only have headquarters. Headquarters is a singular thing. Okay. So data, let's look at agenda first. So agenda, these are both Latin words where, oh, is that true? Agenda was originally the plural form of agendum, a Latin word. Okay, yeah, I thought so. Okay, so of course, in English, agenda is not a plural set of agendum. Agenda is a singular word. You have an agenda. And if you had several agendas, you would have agendas. Agendum is just not a word in English. That's all there is to it. Agendum is not a word in English. Similarly, I would say datum is not a word in English because no one says it, as is shown in this data. Okay, so I would argue that data is a word in English, but datum is not. And data is not a plural because it's not countable. It's not like you would ever say, I have one datum. Oh, look, now I have 3 data. You don't count your data in that way. It is instead what is called a mass noun. You can Google mass noun for more information, but it's similar to water. So with water, you have, you don't count water just like you don't count data. You don't have 1 water, 10 water. You just have water. And it's not quite a singular and it's not quite a plural, but it is a mass noun and we use like singular, we treat it like a singular. So we would say like, this water is good. This data is good. And the way you count mass nouns is you need some kind of container to hold them. So with water, you have a cup of water, you have a lake of water, and so on. With data, you have rows of data, you have sets of data, you have gigabytes of data. So data is a mass noun like water. That's how people actually use it. And that is what this shows. The only reason people say data are in these data is because they have this tiny little sentence in their head that says data is the plural of datum, the Latin origin, blah, blah, blah. But we're not speaking goddamn Latin. We're speaking English. And no one actually uses datum because there's no use for it, because that's not how we talk about data. We don't count data. Right, I have another thing to show you. So, ngrams Google. So, this was quite shocking. I found this very shocking. And in fact, I was originally going to say, well, data sure shouldn't be a plural, but I guess it's too late. But once I saw this, boom, look at this. I thought maybe it's possible for things to change. Okay, because look at this. In 1980s is when this craze of people thinking that data is a plural really hit its peak. And everyone was using data are back in the 80s. But over time, actually, well, look at this. Look at this. Data are is dying, and data is slowly taking over. Oh my goodness. And look at this. One more thing. If I remove the smoothing and we look at the very rawest data available, data are has actually fallen under data is in the most recent set of data in 2019. So, 2018. Wait, oh, there is 2019. Okay, 2019. So, all this to say, not only am I right, but maybe in the future, maybe people will stop telling me to use data are, and that makes me happy.